today's athletes, right? They are the brand and they are the business. If you look at them in whole, right, and you see a lot of companies and other athletes, retired athletes, and actually current athletes now that are leveraging their platform to build their brand.
You help them figure what they want out of life, but you know everything can come with a price. Want to maximize your money and time, might have to take the uncommon advice.
Right, back at it. Another episode of Uncommon Advice.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Got
sir.
Ashton in the house. Z is out for the day. He's not feeling too good, so he's not able to join us. I'm excited to be on here, man. We got some cool stuff. It's actually, hope Z gets better, but I'm also happy to have you on because we've been working on a really cool project internally that I think we're kind of ready to reveal and talk more about, and you're heading that up, so I'm excited. And, yeah, man, so what's going down?
Feels good to be back. I'm not the normal face that you guys are used to seeing in the studio, but I think that what we've been working on, we're very, very close to knocking this thing out the park, Athlete Factory.
Right.
So diving into that, Nate, are they ready for Athlete Factory?
They are. I think so.
All right. So what we got going on with Athlete Factory, right? As we spoke about a while ago, Nate is big on the youth and giving back to community and helping people get to the next level. I am as well. And with Athlete Factory, right, when you think of factory, you think about building something. We want to help build these athletes up, not just on the field, right? Yes, we can help with that as well, but we want to help create and build their business, right? Build their brand, build that foundation for them to make money outside of football. Why? They can't play football or basketball or tennis or volleyball, so on and so forth. They can't play that forever, right? Everybody may not go D1, right? That's everybody's dream, so they say, until they have to do the hard work. I think that's some part that they're forgetting about. But we want to be able to build their brands, and set their profiles up to just be able to be a better, what can we call it? A better product, because at the end of the day, sports is a business, right? So if you're not treating yourself like a business, how can you expect to be respected as such, And if you're not thinking about yourself as a business, that may be mistake number one right there.
Well, and I think today's athletes, right, they are the brand and they are the business. If you look at them in whole, right, and you see a lot of companies and other athletes, retired athletes, and actually current athletes now that are leveraging their platform to build their brand. And then they're leveraging their brand to create relationships, right? They've been doing it for a long time, but now you start seeing them being very proactive in the business world and understanding that, hey, if you have your media in line, and the reason Athlete Factory gets your media in line and your process, the stuff that you're building, not just going out. We're not talking about just being an influencer, right? We're talking about building the media side of their business with their brand and building those relationships. So Brandon Marshall of I Am Athlete, right? So he's been doing it. You've got the Pivot podcast, which is kind of unique.
I love those guys.
So they're leveraging media to grow a brand. Tyreek Hill has his stuff now. So there's a lot of people that are and athletes that are doing it, and if you ask any of them or you go listen to some of their podcasts, they're all going to say, why did they wait so long to do it? And so our goal with Athlete Factory, with helping these kids, step one is, we want to help them live their dream, right? So that's goal one, is help them realize their dream, and that is getting them recruit ready, right? So one of the big things we're going to do at Athlete Factory is help them getting recruit ready so they even have the best chance and best opportunity to be seen and get found, to be seen or be found and get those college offers, whether that be D1, D2, D3, right? There's a lot of money in D2 and D3 these guys don't even know about, that they can still get the free education at a great education going forward, right? And for themselves.
Absolutely.
So that's step one. But if you're going to get recruit ready, you might as well be brand ready, because with the college environment and NIL and everything that's going on over there right now, these athletes have a lot of opportunity to generate revenue for themselves. But a lot of these guys have no clue what branding is, what business building is, what financial education really, they don't have the financial knowledge. So if we can give them those tools and those assets, we're going to be able to help them become really at the end of the day, what's going to happen is they're going to go out, leverage that information, and have a much bigger impact in their world and people around them.
I think that phrase that people use, like when it comes to athletes being placed at a school, they say if you can ball, they'll find you, right? I feel like that statement goes more than just being an athlete. Like if your socials are set up where you don't have a profile picture, right? Your name is hard to identify. You don't post anything on your feed, but everything you share is someone else, right? How's the money going to find you? So I think what we can do is just pretty much provide that stability, that education, not only just the financial education, which is for sure a big thing that, heck, our country needs to know, like economics 101, but these athletes, we don't want to just make these guys, we don't want to help these guys make money, we want to help them keep the money as well, right? But just know that knowledge of knowing how to generate that revenue or how to handle those opportunities that may come based on how they position themselves, right? And I think just, again, what we're trying to do with Athlete Factory, it's going to be big. I don't know, do we want to give them too much game? Because we got some big things set up in the future,
Yeah, so I mean, we'll keep you all posted as we develop it out more. We are actually looking at a launch date, official launch. We've been working on it for a while, right? But our official launch date is coming up here. So as we get closer to it, we'll keep you posted on it. But we're super excited about it. I mean, I think it stays true to our core here. You said in the very beginning, Nate's passionate about the youth and the athletes, but it's not just me. It's the people in the company, right? Like it's the culture we have here at Marketing Rebels, and those are the people we're always looking for, because we do know that the youth is our future. And so why not have and work hard to have a positive impact on them and give back to our youth and help them realize their dreams so they can do the same thing, right? So impact is not just impact can be exponential. But we as a company are able to help 30 kids, and then those kids then have that same mindset. How can I help people? How can I have a positive impact on someone? And then they get out, they start impacting with it, just start sprawling and growing and getting bigger. And we start, you create change, right? You create change by taking action and helping people, right? So this is one way that I know here as a company that we're really driving to do.
I think a lot of people, like in the spaces that we're in, obviously we do multiple things within the company, but even outside of it, like for instance, Champions Football, and me being a high school football coach, like I think that people, you see it all the time, people look to attach themselves to people as opposed to edify, uplift, invest in the people. Like what do you get out of just having your name attached to someone? When that person elevates, do you usually elevate? Sometimes you may not. But why not help this person thrive by giving them game that you may know, or just guide them, because it's nothing more satisfying than that, hey, coach, or I had a kid yesterday at practice, young kid, had gloves on, right? I was with the 12-year-olds, had gloves on, and I'm setting up another drill. He said, hey, coach, can you, I'm like, what's up? He was like, can you tie my shoe? I got my gloves on perfect right now, but I don't want to take them off and tie my shoe. I'm like, sure, I got you. But it's like those little things. It's like, I don't want to go off too much into a tangent, but like that's a impact. He trusts me to be able to even put his ego aside and ask me to tie his shoe as a 12-year-old, right? About to be 13 years old. It's like, all right, that I think those relationships are the ones that we want to build, so they can continue to take that type of energy and plant those seeds throughout the world.
Yep. We've all, and it gives us an opportunity to be the positive influence in these kids' lives. Now, because here's one thing I know. I've got my son and my daughter. I can tell them something, and they'll look at me like I'm crazy. But then I could say, hey, Coach Ash, you tell them this, tell them the same thing I told him. He tells them, and he's the smartest guy in the world. Right. So especially too, as we help with these youth and we get to know their parents, we understand the lessons that they're trying to kind of instill in their kids. And a lot of times when it comes from the coach and it comes from someone else, the kids latch onto it a little bit easier than a parent telling them. So, there's also that piece of it. But
For sure. It was plenty of things my mom used to tell me, and I'm like, yeah. My older brother said it, I'm like, oh. Yeah, we got to get this done. My mom's like, hey, clean your room. Yeah, okay. Yeah. My brother's like, hey, clean your room. All right, yep, gotcha. Spotless.
It reminds me of a story of I go to a men's Bible study once a week here at my church, and we were having a conversation, and this guy was sitting in there, and he starts talking about, when he was a teenager, he could not believe how unsmart his dad was. He's like, my dad didn't really know anything. I couldn't believe it. And he goes, and I go off to college, and I come back, and I'm having a conversation with my dad, and he goes, I was shocked on how much he learned in the 4 years I was gone. So it's kind of funny, but we're kind of going off here. But it's either way, for us as a company, one of the big things, our care and giving thing is helping our youth, and we've got people in here at the company that believe that same thing. So it's amazing that we're all kind of. It makes it easier, too, when we know we're driving to grow these brands and these companies and everything we do. We're in the finance space. We're in the sports space. We're in the political space, like a handful of different kind of niches. But all of that really drives back because we're all also know, like, the more that we grow these, the more we can give back, and provide to our community. So
definitely. I think I would love to have kids or people that I have relationships with be able to have the things that I desired as a kid, And being able to just give back, it means everything, So.
Well, that's your Rebels update. It's the Marketing Rebels update.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. We'll have more for you. Now we move into behind the marketing. So, as you know, what we do here is we build brands that people trust. We build brands that people trust, and we do that through building newsletters. So we own a lot of different newsletters. I mentioned that we own newsletters in financial, sports, political, regular news, not just political news. So we own a handful. We've got a business. Uncommon Advice is actually part of this podcast. We also have a newsletter that goes out, and that's for CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs. So that goes out as well. So we build these brands, we build these newsletters, and there's different ways to do it. So one question that we get a lot when we build these $1 million newsletters is, how do you make money? How do you make money? And you don't charge upfront. I can subscribe for free. How do you make money? So that's really one way. So we have, and it all comes down to kind of how you want to grow the business. So we have free newsletters, which is what we actually enjoy doing and what we spend our time on. And then you have paid newsletters. So paid newsletters, one that you can go out there. There's a company called Trends. And trends.co, and trends.co is they're going to deep dive into different trends and things that are going on in the market and give that to you, and you pay for that on a monthly basis or an annual basis, however you choose to pay for it. You've got low ticket kind of paid newsletters, so a lot of newsletters, right? So New York Times, Daily Wire, two different spectrums in regards to news and content that they put out, but they both are low ticket paid newsletters, right? So you could pay $10 a month for them, and they give you access to more content. So there's a lot of ways that you can do it, but let's move the focus over to free, right? So for us, we build free newsletters. So sportsbread.com, you can go opt in and get free information on our sports culture updates that we send out. Financialmaverick.com, you can go there, you can subscribe, and you can get all of our financial updates that we send out for that brand, right? And we do that for free, but the way that we monetize them is we have a subscriber base that's growing consistently. So we bring in new subscribers, we grow those, and then companies pay us in many different ways, right? So one of those ways is through sponsorships. They come to us and say, hey, we want you to add our product to your newsletter. So what you got to be cautious of when you do this is you want to make sure that you're not sending incongruent stuff, right? Because we work hard to build trust in a relationship with the audience. So you actually run SportsBread newsletters. So why don't you dive in? Like, you put a lot of energy into actually putting that free newsletter together.
Right.
So talk about your process of putting that together and how you're working on building the trust and the relationship with the subscribers, because you got to, then I'll come back and talk about the sponsorship side and how you can ruin that trust really quick if you don't do the right things.
So I feel like there has been different processes on how I go about it. You know, still trying to find nothing's going to be perfect, right? You're always going to have your hiccups. But I think what I've been doing was making sure I'm creating content that I would want to see, right? So when I think of not just me, I'm now creating a target audience, you know? So we already know you have your Bleacher Reports. You have so many different things, the boardroom that just give you daily sports updates, right? When you get too stuck in that niche right there, it's like, okay, I just saw this on Instagram. I saw this on TV. I saw this here, saw this there, saw it on Twitter, and now I have an email. I'm not going to open this. I got it already, right? So I have to find something that is going to, one, be eye-catching. Two, something that they're not going to see just casually scrolling somewhere, right? Something that's going to hold that reader. So what I do, I pretty much go into what I love, what I enjoy, you know, sports culture. So that entails sneakers, cleats, custom cleats, accessories, you know, what these star athletes are wearing when they're off the court or off the field, wherever their field of play is. So staying up to date with that. Why? Because that's an audience out there, right? So if we're focusing on sports culture, why do I want to beat them over the head on something that they're going to see everywhere else, right? I want to massage that interest right there. So it's been a process. I'm learning every day as I do it, right? I've made some mistakes, you know, stupid mistakes where I'm like, all right, I got to go back to day one, make sure the checklist is there. Sometimes you just got to be consistent as well, you know? So I think once you find that niche right there, it's like, okay, let's stay with it, because I've watched it so far quadruple in subscribers. So we'll take it. We're going to keep growing. But I think that building that audience is something that we haven't done yet in our space yet. So it's fun doing it and picking out people that are like, hey, and then so far we got no unsubscribers. The opens are going up, you know, the numbers are going up. So it's pretty dope, you know. And I think just being in that space, we're already thinking about possible people that would want to do sponsorship type business with us, because, okay, you guys are in this space, it's fitting, right? We wouldn't expect to have Home Goods on something about a pair of Kobe's that are about to drop, right? So I think just having that idea in our head of what the target is and what should go where, you know?
Yeah, and some of the sponsorship stuff will work and some of it won't, but the key is we just want to be congruent. Because if you come in and let's say you promote something that's completely off base, right? So maybe you come in and I'm not going to go there with this one, but there's some crazy stuff you can promote. But if you're constantly sending in two things, if you're constantly sending incongruent offers, so one thing to find out, we're building around sports culture for this brand specifically, right? We didn't really want to, just kind of reiterate what you said. We didn't want to be another sports news channel. We wanted to be a sports culture newsletter, not a sports news newsletter, right? And so, yeah, we're gonna have some news in there, right? Because that's part of the culture, but it's not our lead. It's not our core focus. Our core focus is the shoes, the fashion, the accessories, the gear, right? Now, what'll happen is those companies. So, for example, Battle happens to be a brand that sells gloves and accessories for football players. We're going into football season. Potentially, they're going to want to. They could ultimately be an advertiser for us, pay us to sponsor, put their product in our newsletter in front of the people that we've got, right? So that's just one example. So you just want to make sure on sponsorships, because now if we put something in there, go back to the Home Goods, you know, or let's say we got sports culture, we stick in, you know, a vape pen, you know, some sort of vape product, right? Like, that's probably not going to match the audience that we've got there, right? So maybe that ruins that relationship. They're like, why are they promoting this, right? Yeah. And so, one, it can hurt the relationship with the customer, but two, these companies are investing money with us, so they want to see a return on that investment. And so if we do a bad job at picking the products and sponsorships that we promote and that we put into our newsletter, then what's going to end up happening is we're going to have to send more emails with that same product. So if it's not congruent, the customer does, the subscriber doesn't like it, and the buyer, the advertiser doesn't get the performance, we've now got two unhappy people, right? And that's how the business makes money. So you just got to be very cautious of that and make sure you're promoting the right things. And we've had conversations going in, like one thing that we know will actually do well to this audience will be the DraftKings type promotions, right? So, and for us, that's not a they pay us kind of thing. That's more of, hey, we'll pay you $200, $250 for every sign up that we get. So that's a monetization channel for us. As a free newsletter, we have the ability to monetize in multiple ways versus only having that one option in regards to paid.
Yeah, I feel like you never want to get caught up relying on one thing. You see it all the time. Shout out to the people that are fortunate enough to be able to rely on one thing that's been able to keep them afloat or thriving, but everybody's not that fortunate to be able to have that. So being in a space, like you said, being congruent, one hand wash the other, both wash the face type of thing. Being able to have that wiggle room to be like, okay, we can make this much here, this much there, and keep building at the same time without sacrificing relationships, Because when you do, like you said, when you start to bend these relationships and mess these up, it costs money to fix it, right? We speak on free newsletters, right? But on our end, it costs money to fix these things sometimes. So try to avoid that.
Yeah, and a bonus on free newsletters versus paid. So another reason is free newsletters, we know what content we're creating every day. Once you get into the paid newsletters, depending on the type of content that has to be created, you might have to have more writers on staff, more content creators, deliver more information and more value because you're charging for that, right?
Yeah.
So there is a difference there. And then for us, when if you're a paid newsletter, on the marketing side of it, you're constantly split testing what landers are working, what's monetizing, what's my ROI on this on day 1, day 30, day 60, day 90, right? So you're dealing with a lot of different, it adds a whole different dynamic to the business that requires a marketing team to do that, to manage those pieces. So when we have a free newsletter, we're working with companies that have those teams. So when they buy ad space from us, we're not worried about the optimization side of it. We're working with people that have the team to do that. So it's a whole different animal when you're running paid yourself, because there's a whole landing pages, split testing, paid ads, ROI, all that stuff you start looking into. So
yeah, everything's got to be on point. It's like that Kobe saying. It's from my favorite commercial. It's so random. It's like same beast, different animal. It's like, and everybody's like, Kobe, what the hell does that mean? But that's the first thought I went when he said that.
So. All right, man. So there you go. That is behind the marketing. A little bit about what we're doing with some of our stuff, but also free versus paid newsletters, right? And kind of how you can leverage that inside your business. We do have a group called $1 Million Newsletters on Facebook. If you want more information on newsletters, I'm constantly dropping some information over there for you, so you can check it out. It is a free group. And then, so we're going to talk about now, get to the notes. I'm excited about the uncommon advice we got today. So it's, I used to, and this is super important, we're going to talk about stories internally for both of us on this one, but I had a big realization. So I used to do things to prove people wrong. And now what I do is I'm doing things to prove myself right. There's a big difference between the two. And frankly, for me, the motivation becomes greater when I'm proving myself right than when I'm trying to prove someone wrong. So let's talk about that. Tell me about a story where you focused more on proving people wrong as opposed to proving yourself right.
So before I even get into my specific story, if you think about trying to prove somebody wrong, like, yeah, it can be beneficial to a way, but in a sense, it's negative energy, right? And negative energy can be exhausting, right? Think about how long holding a grudge. That crap is exhausting, man. Like, and then you get to a point where you're like, now you're mad at yourself for even feeling a certain way about something that someone may have did or said or whatever. But in this specific case, I'll go back to my college experience, my entire college experience. I did not have the traditional route. So when you're 18, you graduate high school, well, most people think, hey, you got to go to college, right? I went. I had no idea what the hell I wanted to do. I had a slight idea. At first, I wanted to be a marine biologist, realized I'm terrified of water. So that was out the door quick. After that, I went into, I wanted to be an athletic trainer, right? But at the same time, I was trying to play football also, and I was told that you couldn't be an athletic trainer and play football at the same time. So I'm like, all right, I'm scrapping that. So I go to exercise science, which is in the same realm, right? I wasn't a good student. I was actually a horrible student. So first semester I had 7 classes, right? I don't know how that happened, but I had 7 classes. Took a hit. GPA was getting smacked up a little bit. My mom's asking me, how's school going? It's going good, you know. Second semester, bombed it. Oh my God. I think I had a C minus and three Fs. How's school going? It's going all right, you know. I'm on academic probation. She doesn't even know this at this point. Going to my sophomore year, I bomb it again. I end up losing
You
all
didn't learn your lesson yet?
Nah, still bombing
No.
it, man. Hey, still bombing it, and I end up losing all my financial aid, all that stuff. My mom's like, "What the hell happened?" This, that, and the third. You know, she's my mom, so she's still gonna support me. She's pissed. We got to figure it out. But right now, that leash is very, very short. Long story short, what do I do the next semester? I bomb it. You know, foreshadowed it. So I get kicked out of school. I'm back home, figuring it out. And I had a cousin. She said something to me because her experience. She went to college for whatever reason she didn't finish, and she said to me, you know, once you leave school, you never go back. And I'm the type of person, if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it, right? So I go out in the regular work world a little bit in an event, but what she said to me stuck. And I'm like, because I told her in that moment, like, you're wrong. Watch, I'm going to prove it. Just because you didn't finish, I'm going to do it. So I'm working or whatever. I end up going back to school, but with 2 motives. One, I was dating a girl who she motivated me to want more for myself, right? That didn't mean I had to go back to college. I was still thinking, this is like 5 years later, I'm still thinking, like, seeing my cousin at church, you know, events, and I'm like, all right, watch. I get enrolled back into school. I get everything appealed. So post it on Facebook, you know, still immature. I'm posting it like within hopes. I didn't care who liked it, but I wanted to see if my cousin was going to like it or comment. So I end up going back to school, paying for everything out of my pocket, right? I ended up putting myself in debt. I graduated, right? But my first thought was when I graduated was, I told you, right? Did me having that same thought, I told you, that still left me with $52,000 worth of debt. It still left me with a bunch of stress. It still left me with not having a job once I graduated, right? For me to even not be in the field that I got a degree in anymore, right? So I say all that to say, I probably should have been proving myself that I can be successful, as opposed to, I'm going to show you that I can finish just because you said I wasn't going to finish, right? So after that, though, I kind of was like, I don't care what anybody says. It's more so what I feel, what I think, and holding myself accountable. If I feel like I had that split second of, I don't think you can do it. You know, those internal conversations you have, it's like, nah, let's prove that you're the best. Let's prove that you can make this happen. Let's prove that you can do this. Because when you sit back and think about it, we've all made the impossible happen more than once without really even thinking about it. And I think we don't take enough time to sit back and be like, holy crap, thank you God, that was crazy, right? But from now on, my mindset is more so, like I said, I don't really care what you say. I don't really care what you think. But it's more so, hey, you think we could do this? Yeah, I think we could do this. Or nah, I don't think we can do that. Let's stay away from that.
Yeah, and when you focus out of proving people wrong, what happens is sometimes you'll make decisions that aren't in your best interest, right? Because you just want to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times when you're proving yourself right, you might, at least in my case, I'm making better decisions because I have the result is I'm driving for it for me, right? For what I'm trying to do. And I used to be this way in business, right? So I've done a lot growing up as a kid to prove people wrong, growing, and then in business, it actually worked against me because I would sit there and I focused so much on trying to build something to prove people wrong that when tough, sometimes I've launched companies and I've gone with the attitude of I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to get this bill because you said I couldn't do it. And I've done it, but it was never as big or as good as it could possibly be because I wasn't focusing on building something that would be last long term. I was focused on getting something done and getting the win, and I won, right? As opposed to, hey, we're building something bigger. And now I think where my attitude has shifted. So I was sitting in a mastermind group back in 2000, I want to say 10 it was. And I was sitting there discussing my project that I was working on. Mm-hmm. It's called Real Estate Money Matrix. It was a lending tree for real estate investors. It was going to be the next big thing. And I had this real boisterous guy in the mastermind group. It was his first time there. I didn't know who the heck he was. But he's like, when you get in these mastermind groups with a bunch of alphas sometime, like everyone's got a peacock and raise their voice a little bit, to prove that they're king dingling in the room.
Thanks.
So this guy was doing that. And he starts telling me, well, you can't do this. You can't do that. You're not gonna be able to do this. You're gonna be out of the business in a year, blah, blah. I finally looked at him. I go, who are you? And he didn't like that question, right? Because everybody knows this guy. And so, at least that was his attitude. And so, what I ended up doing to prove him wrong is I went and I built the business. I launched it anyways. We did over $1 million in sales inside of 2 months. And then we ended up selling the company for $1 million. Now, that's a win in turn when you look at that on the front end, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was so focused on proving him wrong. I also was trying to do it so fast that I sold it. I built it. We made money. I sold it. And then I wasn't focused on if it was for me, like trying to prove myself, like with building these newsletters. It was like, I'm not building these to prove someone wrong. I'm building these newsletters to prove myself right, that this is the business model that we're going to crush and grow. And our focus now is building these newsletters and creating an environment that we can ultimately exit one day. And so I'm building long-term, right? So when I was building to prove someone wrong, it was all short-term minded, get the win, prove them wrong, and move on. Now I'm more towards like, how do we build something bigger? How do we build something that's of massive value long-term that we can potentially exit? And if we don't exit, it's because we love it and we're enjoying it and we're just growing and growing and growing, right? So, and then looking at it going, all right, great. We've got these businesses that we're building, and how do we now take that to have a bigger impact inside a community? So for me, the mindset shift from proving people wrong to proving myself right came down to proving people wrong. I was only focused on me and winning. Now that I'm trying to prove myself right, my focus comes on how do we grow, become bigger, and create impact. Does that make sense?
No, it makes sense because it's very similar to like where I was. It was like a lot of, and then what? Like I got to that point, and then what though? I wasn't thinking long term. Mm-hmm. I got the degree, you made the business, and then what? So I think that we never want to put blinders on ourselves and make things so short-sighted, because it's just that and then what situation can be good in certain scenarios, but like when you're not thinking clearly or thinking things through, you're not realizing that the damage that you could possibly be doing to yourself in any way, shape, or form. It's like being in a relationship, right? You and your woman are arguing, and then sometimes you find yourself arguing just to be right.
Racing to the bottom. I call that racing to the bottom.
Yeah, it's like you're okay. Say I win this argument, and then what is confetti going to fall? No. Now there's weird tension in the room. We got to figure out. We're going to have to revisit this conversation just to make sure everything's smooth moving forward. It's a waste of time. It's like, all right, is this conversation, is this situation, is this beneficial, right? So I think that how you look at things, and is it for you? Like, why am I doing this? Everybody talks about their why. It doesn't always have to be grand scheme, but like in that moment, why am I doing this? Why am I disputing this? Why am I pursuing this? I think we need to just stop and think a little bit. Sometimes stuff isn't even worth it.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So right there, if you're operating right now, or you're building and you're focused on something, or ask yourself, am I trying to do this? Am I doing this to prove somebody wrong? Or am I doing this to prove myself right? And I think if you make that mindset shift over to proving yourself right, you're going to find yourself in the business building the things that you love, enjoy, and want to do. So
I think at the end of the day, that's all we really want.
Yep.
Do what you want to do. You know, I'm trying.
there we go. So that is the end of Uncommon Advice today. Hope you enjoyed it. Do us a favor, bro code. Give us a like. Shoot on over to YouTube, like our channel. It's at Nate Kennedy MD on my channel over there. Subscribe to the podcast to get the recent updates. So, absolutely, man. Thank you so much.
See you guys later.
Hey, listen to this, might have to take the uncommon advice.